This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today, we have a lovely neighbor on with us, and that is Courtney St. Croix of LeadHer Publishing.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Super pumped.
Me too.
To have this conversation, especially because we've already been talking for like 10 minutes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, we need to start the show because this is getting good. So, anybody who's listening right now, you're just getting dumped in the fire. So why don't we dive right into it? Because I'm really curious. I didn't do no research. I wanted to be, a curious cat and asking you, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your business?
Yeah, for sure. So my company is LeadHer Publishing. So the very bare bones of it, help people publish books. And we do this through self-publishing. So as we know, there's a difference between traditional publishing and self-publishing. I primarily work with women entrepreneurs. So I help women to leverage their expertise, their experience, their education, put that into a book that can help to generate income through their business as a pillar of their business, or even to start that as a business if they are wanting to start a speaking career, or just build on the information that they have and package it up in a nice, neat little package. So I usually work with women to generate nonfiction books, but I also work with men and women to do children's books, workbooks for their business. Like we do all kinds of print materials, but my primary demographic is generally women entrepreneurs and in the self-help or the leadership categories. You can see the name Lead, Her, Leadership for Women, LeadHer Publishing, kind of blended it all together. So that's kind of the bare bones of it. I help people to self-publish their books.
So you mentioned, as most people know, I don't. So I'm going to play naive to this. There's two different publishing here. So what would be the difference between the two?
Yeah, that is amazing that you mentioned that, because I think I get in my head thinking people know the difference. And I've had many clients say to me before too, like they see a book that's available on Amazon. They don't know whether it's been traditionally published or self-published. So that is a great distinction to make. When you self-publish, you are doing everything on your own. So that means you're investing in the process of publishing your book and getting it on whatever platform you choose. I often work with Amazon, but there's other platforms you could utilize. When you're working in the traditional publishing space, this is the more glamorized or popular version of publishing that you would see in the media. So any TV shows you've seen, any movies you've seen where an author gets a book deal or a publishing deal, that's through the traditional publishing landscape. So you would get a book deal, you would get a book advance, and then you're working with them. You provide them with the writing, obviously, and they really do modify things a lot. They make a lot of the decisions. You get less creative control, just less control overall. When you're self-publishing, of course, you're putting up the cost in order to do these things, but you also get a huge benefit on the other side of it because you get a much higher percentage of the royalties. It's a different structure, but what it really means is the technology has evolved so much over the past 15 to 20 years when self-publishing first started and people started understanding the process of it, puts the control in your hand. One of my favorite parts is that instead of waiting around for somebody else to pick you and crossing your fingers and hoping that you get picked up by a traditional publishing house, you can just go ahead and self-publish it on your own. You can pick yourself. I feel like just that action, taking that action for yourself is so empowering that you can decide to pick yourself. And then, of course, if you have goals to be traditionally published, self-publishing first is a great stepping stone. Put yourself out there, get your work published, get it, gain some traction. And that's possible. I've known many people that have self-published and then gone on to traditionally publish as well. So there are some differences. Traditional publishing is what you'd think of if you ever thought of somebody becoming an author and getting a book deal. And self-publishing is where you take the control in your own hands and you actually go about doing all of the work on the book for yourself, getting the files ready and finding a platform of choice to publish it on publicly.
That seems like a kind of a cool way to do it, where if you never experienced that before, you get to learn all aspects of what goes on because you're self-publishing and then decide after, say, hey, I can either do that again or I might want to take the other avenue versus the other way around. I don't know. Would you learn as much if you had through the traditional method? I'm just kind of making
definitely not.
You wouldn't.
No, they would just be doing everything for you. And now with LeadHer Publishing, I also have a service where I can do everything for you. So it depends on how much you want to learn about the process. Okay. So I could do everything for you, but the difference is the book is yours. It will be in your name. It'll be in your own account. You will manage it on Amazon. You will generate all of the income that's available to you through Amazon. So that is a difference where traditional publishing will take a lot of royalties from their authors, and the author really only gets a small percentage. So there's lots of different things, but it's definitely more empowering to be able to control not only the process and make decisions, even on things like design. I always offer my clients suggestions on what their cover should look like based on my experience and working in the book publishing industry. But at the end of the day, it's their work, it's their book, it's something they need to be really proud of, and it's something they're going to be promoting long term. It's going to be this kind of cornerstone product in their business, or it could be a brand new business that they're trying to build out. So I'll always offer my advice. I have services where I do it completely for you, or I guess with you. Like, it's very collaborative. It's very much like a partnership. And then I also have a membership community where I teach people how to self-publish on their own. So that includes things like self-paced courses, doing coaching calls, and teaching people how to do it if they would rather do it on their own and not, hire a company to do it. So you can learn a lot about it. It depends on the method that you want to use.
Okay. Very informative. Thank you for that. So I like to pride myself as a human being on being really good at being able to read the other person in front of me. And so for those who are only listening on the audio version, you didn't get a chance to see how passionate Courtney is about what she does. And I have, we asked the same questions. I'm going to ask another question tied into the second question that we ask, because you are so passionate. So where did you find the passion in doing what you're doing? And what was that journey leading up into doing what you're doing today?
Okay, great question. I wanted to be an author since I was a little kid, since I was probably 6 or 7. And I used to write stories in notebooks and write, just stories of fiction. And then when we got a computer, which was probably in about 1998, and it was a huge desktop IBM that took up the whole kitchen table, I started playing around with typing out stories and creating different titles for my chapters. And I would never finish the stories, but I always had this drive to be creative and to write stories and create characters. And along the way, as I had that passion back then and loved reading books as well as a kid, I heard from a lot of really well-intentioned authority figures, well-meaning people in my life that just said, becoming an author is really hard. That's probably not something that you should do. It's difficult to become an author. And it's not really that they weren't right. That was actually accurate back then, because it was mostly just traditional publishing that was available at that time, but the technology has changed. So I went into high school doing things like offering to edit people's essays because I loved writing and grammar and spelling so much, and it just came super naturally to me. And then I went to school and I was going to go into journalism. But again, I had people telling me, it's really competitive. Even, broadcast journalism is very competitive to get into. Getting into even doing publications. Like, I had a dream of working at a magazine or at a big publishing company. And it just seemed to me that everyone was telling me it's not a great idea. You should pick something else that would be easier to get into, like being a teacher or other traditional types of jobs. So I went to school. I did an English literature degree. So it was a little more broad than just focusing on journalism on its own. But along the way, and as I started working, getting into the workforce, I was finding other ways to satisfy this passion. So for a large company I worked with for about 15 years, as I was climbing the corporate ladder there, I would write for their blog. I was their resident blog contributor on the department that I was in. I contributed to their quarterly magazine every single time. I would write an article. These are all things that were unpaid parts of my job that I just did for fun because I loved it. And I just kept following that corporate ladder structure because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. That's what society had conditioned me to do. Climb the corporate ladder, ask for promotion, get a little raise every year. All of the other things that come along with traditional success indicators. And there was a shift that happened in about 2018, I guess. 2017, 2018, I was working for this company and they had a huge restructuring. And at the time, most of the people that did the same job as me got let go. I actually got promoted at that time and moved up to my boss's position, which was amazing. But over the course of the next 18 months, I just found the company's values and mine were no longer aligning. There was a lot of changes I didn't agree with. And I was just finding the company culture had shifted from what it was, which was incredible before, and just had really shifted after they made a bunch of decisions I wasn't super in alignment with. So I decided to leave, and this was around 2019. And at the time I was writing a blog, building a social media presence. That was all on the topic of motherhood and confidence. And along the lines, at some point, I came across someone who had self-published and heard this term self-publishing for the first time. And I thought, well, maybe I could write a book. I've wanted to write a book my whole life. Maybe I could write a book and actually self-publish it and not be, go the traditional route everyone told me was so difficult. So I started writing my book. That took longer than I anticipated because it takes time to write a full book. But I had another idea because I was working in this motherhood and confidence space to go through my own journey postpartum, having poor confidence and trying to build that back. I started journaling a lot. And on my social media platforms, I was giving sort of tips and advice on what I was doing, what was working for me to improve my confidence and my self-esteem. And I pulled together things that I was doing every single day in my journaling and created a journal that I then self-published on Amazon. That was the first thing that I published, a self-love journal. So once I saw that that opportunity was there and fulfilled this lifelong dream of becoming a published author, because now I officially was a published author, and the journal did super well. I created a second journal that was for girls, specifically young girls. And that gained a lot of traction and people were really excited about that. And then my first nonfiction book came out, which was also about motherhood and confidence. And then people started asking me how I did that. How did you publish it? How did you get it on Amazon? Like all these questions started coming in. So it was a very natural and organic process for me having the passion since I was a kid, figuring out how to do it myself, and then having people go, hey, how did you do that? And then I realized, hey, maybe I could help other people do this. And I can leave my job that I'm no longer aligning with and help other people become authors too. So that's kind of how it started. And it's been going great since then.
Phenomenal. What a wonderful story. Always fascinates me to hear everyone's story. They're always different and unique, right? In their own right. I myself, I climbed up and down that corporate ladder. Did that for a long time. I've always wanted to be a business owner. I unfortunately had my fair share of bullying that was done to me growing up, the elementary school, high school, and then even into the workforce. It's just, I couldn't get away from it. It was bananas. And then finally getting an opportunity to work for myself. It's been an absolute pleasure to kind of make your own schedule and work with the people that you want to work with, align yourself with people of the same goals, the same morals and values, and really happy that you found that for yourself.
Yeah, it's been a very fun journey. And I always joke about the fact that I didn't really know that this is what I was going to do. And when I was a kid, I wanted to work for a publishing company. And here I am now with my own publishing company, which is just really interesting. And it just really helps me to ground into my reason why and my purpose and my, values with my own business, because this is the company that I would have wanted when I was first self-publishing to help guide me, because I didn't really know what I was doing. I made my first journal in Pages for Mac, which was a terrible place to be making a journal. Like lesson learned, that was an awful, awful place to be making a designed page inside a journal. And there's so much even better technology now, just much more user-friendly. But the journey from just kind of figuring it out myself and then realizing I have this information now and I can help other people. And that started with, at first I was offering like group book projects, collaborative book projects where multiple women were writing a chapter, again, functioning in that self-esteem, confidence, motherhood sort of area, because that's the brand that I had built. And found that I have things to share about my own journey, but I knew there was other people that had found their own successes and had different stories of building a better self-love and confidence, mindset. So by collaborating with multiple people, then that was even more fun. We got to all write the book together, and then I would take care of the publishing part. And then I started having people reach out individually asking if I could work one-to-one with them. And at the time I was like, sure, I'll tell you what I know about publishing. I thought that's just what they wanted to know, like what the steps were. So I remember getting on a call with somebody the very first time she asked me about publishing. I told her everything that I knew on this call, thinking I'm just going to help her out. I'm just going to tell her what I know. And at the end of the call, she said, okay, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. But I actually don't want to learn it all. I would like you to do it for me. So can I hire you? And on that call, I was like completely like mind blown. I wasn't expecting that at all. I didn't have a proposal. I didn't have pricing. I didn't have anything. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let me put my proposal together and I'll send that to you. And had no idea, but was very natural and very organic. And I didn't know that's what was going to happen on that call, but it just kind of happened, which was very beautiful. And I love that now when I get new clients. A lot of the times I'm getting referrals from past clients. And that means the people I'm attracting send me more people that just are in alignment. And it's just this beautiful kind of referral process. And it's beautiful to be a part of.
Yeah, the universe definitely has a way of taking care of itself when it comes to that. So I wanted to ask you, you mentioned, I wrote it down, technology for self-publishing. So I guess the traditional way prior to technology hadn't had its advancement to really work its way into the self-publishing part. And since I have no idea what that is, what forms of technology ended up coming out that really kind of made this possible?
Yeah, so a lot of different elements from traditional versus self. And there's some publishing agencies that are kind of a blend of both traditional and self-publishing. A couple of different things changed. Number one, I would say the platform that's available. So right now we know it as Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. When it first came out, it was called CreateSpace. And that was the first platform that allows you to essentially load book files for free. Yes, Amazon takes a part of the royalty, but it's nowhere near what the traditional publishing house would be taking of your royalties. It's kind of a pay-to-play system. But that technology being available to any person who wants to go ahead and self-publish is number one. And then number two, traditionally publishing used to have to, so big publishing houses have very different budgets and very different priorities and PR teams and marketing teams. And what they generally do is they're purchasing, like, it's called an offset print run. So they would order a huge amount of copies and then they get distributed to bookstores. That's kind of the traditional way that you do it. Well, with Amazon, now Kindle Direct Publishing, it's a print on demand system. So that offers a huge benefit for me as a self-published author. I don't have to buy 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 copies and store them in my garage or my basement and try to sell them from my website. I can use Amazon's system that's already set up, and I just drive people to purchase on Amazon. And when you order a copy of my book, it just prints one copy and mails it to you. They also manage all the, there's no real inventory because it's print on demand, but they manage the shipping, the fulfillment, returns. So I kind of consider anything I'm paying Amazon to participate in this system that they have set up, because it is their system. I'm paying them to, basically be inventory, shipping, fulfillment, returns, that whole department. So definitely the introduction of CreateSpace, which turned into Kindle Direct Publishing. And then also the fact that you can now have this print on demand system versus having to order thousands of copies on your own and make sure that people are buying them. I can really just, if I sell copies, that's great. I generate income from it. And if I don't, it's not that I have hundreds of copies that I still need to sell, stressing me out in my basement. Right. So there's lots of other amazing technologies now for authors with regards to design and editing and getting your book, set up properly and formatted properly. But I'd say those are probably the two biggest ones. Kindle Direct Publishing being available for people is a massive benefit for independent writers.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like the way to go.
Especially if you're new and you're not sure, maybe you don't know what your goals are for your book, or maybe you do have aspirations to become traditionally published. It's a great way to, like I said, pick yourself, show the universe, as you mentioned, that you are worthy of writing a book, becoming an author, and that you have valuable information and your voice deserves to be heard. It's like the ultimate signal that you could give yourself and put out into the universe. And then, as you're promoting it, talking about it, gaining traction, you could then pitch traditional publishing houses or find a literary agent and go that route. But it's a great message to yourself that you are deserving of becoming an author, and you can do it yourself if you're not, willing to wait around for somebody else to pick you.
When you're interacting with people that are coming to you and talking about their goals and aspirations about wanting to write a book, what do you hear out there for misleading misnomers, misconceptions when it comes to self-publishing?
I think a lot of the times I get people coming to me first and foremost, they're like, I want to write a book, and I'm like all for it. That's amazing. I want you to write a book. That's great. But they haven't written anything yet. So the first hump that they need to get over is we need to figure out how to plan and map out a solid book. And it's a little more complicated than just writing words in a Google Doc and then loading it up to KDP, right? We want to make sure that we are understanding the reader, the person we're writing to, what is the value that we're sharing and what's in it for them. Because if you ever look at books, you mentioned that Jeff is more into reading the books and you're more into the street smarts. But if you were thinking of picking up a book, right, you're going to think, I either want this for myself for some form of entertainment, or I want to be informed and educated about something. So if you're wanting to learn more about habits, you might go, I'm going to get Atomic Habits because I heard that is a great book to teach me about how to better implement habits into my life. So readers want something from your book. So we have to be careful when we're entering the space of, I want to become a published author, that we know what's in it for the person picking up the book. There are two people involved. You're sharing your story and your expertise and your wisdom, but you're also sharing it for a purpose. And that purpose is for the person on the other side to be helped. So I think I see a lot of authors wanting to write books, thinking, I'll just share my story of what happened to me. And that is great to be incorporated in your book if you want to share what happened to you. But we always want to be mindful of who is picking up the book on the other side and what are the lessons, what are the takeaways. Even if you wrote a book that was like 10 chapters and it was like blog post style and you were sharing different things that happened, even if they aren't in chronological order in your life, I always need to know, okay, what did you learn? What did you take away from this? What is the learning or the lesson or the thing that you gained from this? Because I want to be able to pull that as well. So the mechanics of writing, and it's interesting you asked this question too, because I came across you through Angel Powers or Mainstream Therapy. I don't know if she's been on your show or not.
She's on next week.
Okay, awesome. So came through Angel, and Angel was a writer in Working Writers Co. And I noticed you had Marcy Barbaro on your show from Working Writers Co. as well.
People.
Working Writers Co. and I are sort of partnered up. We work together. I send them people who want to write books because I get a lot of people asking who have not typed a single word into their manuscript. So I send those people to Working Writers Co. And now Working Writers Co. refers people to me who exit out of their writing program. So now we've been working together. It's beautiful relationship where their zone of genius is the writing and my zone of genius is the publishing. So we've partnered up to work together, which is amazing. And they are two people that just know how to write an impactful book that is going to really make people notice. It's going to help people gain something from it and trust me, I know when the first book that I wrote, I just kind of wrote whatever. And if I were doing it again, I would 100% do it differently. And I just leave that one book there because I think it's a good symbol of progress and how I've evolved and grown, because the next one that I wrote, I feel is much better structure and is organized a lot better. Yeah. But yeah, it's one thing to just write whatever and have that published. You can absolutely do that. It's up to you. We just hosted a masterclass recently. And because I used to work, the big company that I worked at was a gym facility. So I often blend together the gym elements of the gym with like writing a book. And so when we were on this masterclass, I said, you can show up to the gym and just do whatever you want. And you might not have any knowledge of what to do or how to use the machines, but it's free for you to just go get your membership and do whatever you want at the gym. But if you get a personal trainer, or if you even go to a class where you're instructed by somebody, the results and the outcomes and the success that you're going to find is not only going to be better, but probably faster. You're going to be more efficient, and it's going to just have more impact. So it's the same with writing a book. You can do whatever you want. You can. If you got the time to write, you write whatever you want, no problem. But if you want it to be impactful and to create a ripple effect, and for people to recommend this book to their friends and their family members, and for this book to gain traction and to have 5-star reviews, and for people to really get something out of it, hire a coach to work with you. Marcy and Alex from Working Writers Co. are like the personal trainers for the book writing world. So I can't recommend them enough.
Yeah. Jeff would be super jealous if he's watching this right now. He definitely is, because he's a big fitness guy, right?
Oh yeah.
And we use in our marketing for what we do, helping small and medium-sized businesses, we say it's a fitness plan, right? Because they're working with us and putting something structured together to help them achieve what they're looking to achieve. So the second, he would already been excited that you're talking about books, then you start talking about the fitness thing, he just absolutely lose his mind, right?
He's going to have to listen to this one then. He's going to have to listen back.
Well, I like doing that. I like poking up, right? When I get a really good guest on the show, I just say, hey, you missed an opportunity. They came to me, not to
you. Missed out. Too bad for you. We'll have to meet him sometime as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So we're having fun. I like to have fun. I just came back from a 5-day camping excursion in the middle of nowhere, hour and a half north of Sudbury. Got to do some fishing.
Oh, wow.
Hang out with
you
friends.
See any moose or any other animals up there?
We did not see anything large like that, but we did know that there was a bear nearby with 2 baby cubs. So we had to be careful with where we were going and not venturing too far away from camp at nighttime and stuff like that. The black flies literally carried us away. It was
they're intense right now.
Yeah, it was really bad, especially on the last day out. But I mean, we had tent screens set up and all kinds of stuff. And there's just something about nature that helps you ground yourself and disconnect. My batteries are full charge, so you picked a great time to come on the show.
Yes.
But you strike me as someone who likes to have a lot of fun when they're not working on or in their business. And so that's my question. What do you like to do for fun?
Oh, great question. When you mentioned you were just away for 5 days doing an outdoor excursion, I was like, we were just away too. On May 24, beautiful, beautiful weather. Best we've had in years, I would say.
Yep.
We like to boat. So with our family, we've been boating for 10 years. Started out on the Trent Severn, just kind of boating up and down the Trent Severn waterway. And then we always found our destination was Georgian Bay. So every holiday we had, we'd be trying to get our way to Georgian Bay and to boat on Georgian Bay, which is amazing and beautiful. But we'd really only come through the Trent Severn at the bottom part of Georgian Bay, basically Midland, maybe Honey Harbor area. And then we would turn around and go back home because it was only a week's vacation. So we actually moved recently. We live north of Barrie now, in Port Severn area, Honey Harbor area. Yep. And we boat right from the dock at our house. And so we were away on Beausoleil Island this weekend, which is a national park, and like all kinds of stuff outside. It's also very community oriented. All of the boaters are very, very welcoming and friendly. And so we boat with a bunch of people that we now know and have met over the past few years. Campfires, just water skiing, doing all of those things outside. We went for a beautiful hike on Beausoleil Island. So my family and I love to be outside. We've got a German Shepherd dog and I have an 8-year-old daughter. And we just love doing things together outside. And we live in the middle of nowhere now, just rocks and trees basically around us. So you're speaking my language when you said you're outside. That's what I want to do at all times is be outside. And we have a little boat at the dock. And one day I just looking out the window to see what the weather was like. On the days it's very nice in May and June, I will drive the boat and pick my daughter up at school because it's water accessible, which is I think that's the most beautiful memory that she can have as a child. Like my mom used to pick me up in the boat from school and take me home. And if she would get up a bit earlier, I would do it in the morning too, but she likes to sleep in. So it's trickier.
Yeah, that's probably one of the coolest things I've ever heard. If my mother could have picked me up from school in a boat.
Isn't that so cool? I would have loved that. And like the community that we live in, very small. Not everybody has the opportunity to do that. Like not even everyone around here even has a boat, which I find interesting because there's so much that you can access on the water in Honey Harbor. There's so many beautiful places that you can go, even just to get over to Beausoleil Island and hike over there, which we did on the weekend. But I don't think she even realizes that is cool because it's just normal for her. But I think it's so cool.
Yeah, if that's not sucking the marrow out of life, I really don't know what is. All fun stuff. Love boating, love being out on the water, campfires, hiking, being out in nature. It's we got such a great backyard here in Simcoe County and north of Simcoe County.
Mm-hmm.
It's and for those who haven't gone and explore, get out there and check it out. Especially we have an early season this year, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to soak up as much as I can because we know the white stuff is eventually going to come back. So
yep. Yeah, we like to enjoy the white stuff as well, meaning snow. We snowmobile in the wintertime. However, this past winter wasn't great for snowmobiling. The lakes didn't freeze up quite as well. We didn't get enough snow. So that was kind of tricky because normally we would be out almost every weekend, capitalizing on what we're around in the winter as well. But it was trickier to do that this year. The winter wasn't too good. There is a great trail just a little bit more north of me. I don't know if you've heard of McRae Lake. It's
I have
a beautiful lake.
I've camped backcountry camping on
amazing camping, amazing trail that you get up to like the top of this beautiful cliff. And I didn't even know that was there the first time I went to hike the trail. I just thought it was a nice outdoor trail. I didn't even realize that's what was going to happen. And I told myself I'd go for 3 kilometers on my Apple Watch and then I would turn back. And I got to about 2.5 kilometers and thought, I think I could turn back now. But something told me to keep going. And like less than a half a kilometer later, I landed on this beautiful view. So it's not a difficult hike back there, beautiful scenery. So if you love the outdoors, like it sounds like both Sean and I do, that's a great trail to visit, not too far from Simcoe.
That was the first time I ever brought I have a 3-year-old Australian Shepherd.
Nice.
His name is Jax.
Cute.
And it's the first time he ever went backcountry camping. He was an absolute stud. I got him his own little backpack, so he carried his own food in and his own water and all that stuff. So he pulled his own weight, and I've got a really cool picture on my phone. I'll show it to you one time. I gave him a cool little bandana, and he had his little vest on, and he was so proud. He was sitting on a rock, and I was below. I got to take this really cool snapshot of him.
We're gonna have to swap photos because I have a 3-year-old German Shepherd. And I've got her on the edge of this cliff once we finally made it up to the cliff. And then, of course, I tried to do some photos of both of us, but the time our photos are always just questionable, whether they're going to be good or not. But we'll have to swap some photos.
Well, I am partnered with a dog photographer. If you're ever
Oh,
looking
cool.
for real photos, yeah, she's phenomenal. Only takes professional photos of dogs. Really cool.
Amazing. What a job. That is such a cool job. I want that job.
Yeah, she got a really cool story too. So, okay, so let's
Amazing.
switch gears here. We'll go something a little bit more on the serious side. It's always a question we ask on the show. I feel like it's a great way for our audience to be able to connect as human beings to our guests on the show. And sometimes it can get pretty deep and pretty serious. So like we talked about before, I'll only go as deep as you want me to go. But sometimes in life, we put ourselves on a path. We think that that's the path that suits us the best based off of who we are, based off our goals, what we're looking to achieve in life. And then life does what it does and throws things our way. Sometimes it throws a tragedy our way. Sometimes it'll yank us left or right or pulls us off the path, completely gives us a 180, puts us on a completely new path, or throws a big obstacle in our way. We have to overcome these life challenges and hardships. And so I wanted to ask if you've ever experienced a hardship in life, or if you had a life challenge that you overcame. Maybe it made you stronger, maybe it made you better, or maybe you took some silver linings from it.
Oh man, what a question. There's been a lot of things, especially early on in my career working in the business that I have now. And I've got much better systems and much better support team helping me out now. But early on, I tried to do everything myself, as I think a lot of entrepreneurs do. We're trying to keep costs low and, make sure. I also have an interest in learning the systems and learning. I don't want to just delegate to someone. I do actually want to have an idea of how things work, just in case there's turnover, So there's been a lot of learnings, and I've had great people that I've worked with over the past few years that I've been doing this. There had been a couple of times where just by me learning new things about the publishing space and about timelines and about how our processes work, where we ran into some challenges. And I don't think getting into the details really matters. It's just a matter of understanding that when something like that happens, we have to learn from it and we have to get better from it. So you have to just take from it what you can. And even though it might be difficult during that period, take it as a life lesson, take it as a learning lesson, and learn what to do, moving forward in the next step. But I think one of the biggest difficulties for me, I mentioned I work for this big company. I work for the gym space. We went through a restructuring, and that was about 2017 or 2018. And the way that they went about restructuring the company was very weird. And I think upon reflection, they would not have done it that way, but they basically took us all into one room and told us they were getting rid of our job. Like, we're getting rid of this position, no longer exists. So in the territory I was in, there was about 12 of us doing the same job. It was all I had ever known. I came out of university. I was working part-time as a customer service rep for the company. Then I, started as an assistant manager and worked my way up. And I said I was corporate climbing. I feel that I have post-traumatic stress from that situation because of the way that it was handled and how almost everyone in that room just lost their jobs. And then 5 minutes later, I was told that I was getting a promotion, but all of my friends had just lost their job. And then I was going to lunch with my friends, like 5 of them that all worked in the same area. So that experience, it taught me a lot also about just observing how the company decided to make decisions about big changes. And I took a lot of that into my company. And if I'm making any changes in my company, I definitely do things differently than in that experience.
Right.
But that was very difficult emotionally to manage. To this day, I don't think I've ever celebrated that promotion that I got, that I was hoping I would get in 5 years from then. That was the goal, is to move up to that next level. I still don't think I've ever celebrated it because it was just so traumatizing to see everybody else losing their jobs while I was like, okay, great, I'm getting a promotion. Awesome, but not really. So that was a very difficult thing that I went through. And like I said, I've taken a lot of just observing how they manage change and determining how I do that with my own business now is very different. I take a very different approach. And I think if I hadn't gone through that, some of my systems might not be what they are because I was on the receiving end of it, experiencing what that was like when a company said, this is what we're doing and this is what's happening. And so now I take a very close interest in working with the people that I'm working with, the clients that I'm working with, if there are changes, making sure that I do that in the right way and not in a way that is poorly managed, in my opinion. So I don't know if that answers your question. I'm sure there's tons of things that I could talk about in terms of challenges and just in the nitty gritty and day to day with my business. But I think just taking the challenge that is in front of you and thinking, what is this trying to teach me? Why am I being given this challenge? Everything's going to be okay in the end. I have to figure out a way through. Sometimes the hardest way is to just go through, but then on the other side, you're a better person for it. And yeah, just trying to take it as it is what it is. It's a life lesson. I have to pull from it what I can, even though it's difficult. And what can I bring forward with me in my, in the future, whether that's business or life? What is this teaching me? What can I learn from it?
Yeah, life is hard. If people think it's easy, they're
and
young.
Business is hard.
Yeah.
There's a lot of glamorizing in terms of business and running your own business. And for me, and what I see in the, female entrepreneurship, women running businesses, a lot of the times it can be glamorized. Like it's just, we're sipping champagne and getting expensive handbags and sitting around running multi-million-dollar businesses. But there's business can be hard. There's a lot of decisions to make. There's a lot of, systems and processes and refining and evolving in the process, and challenges and struggles that come up. Going through the pandemic was, I'm sure for everyone you've had on this show has probably mentioned that couple of years during the pandemic. How are we shifting things? How are we changing things? My business was completely online at the time, but there was definitely still some concerns with, are people going to want to be paying to be publishing books? Are people going to be wanting to do this anymore? Because things are tight, during the pandemic. That was a real challenge for all of us. So it's business is hard, life is hard, but it's really the most difficult things that are going to make us stronger in the long run. So
yeah, failing.
We have to
fail
forward.
I was just going to say that. Took the words right out of my mouth. Fail forward and learn. I mean, my significant other runs a flower shop, and people come in and say, "Oh, it must be so nice. You get to play with flowers every day." And it's like, you have absolutely no idea.
That part is fun, but there's a lot of other stuff that nobody sees.
And I work the front of the shop twice a year over Mother's Day and Valentine's Day. I see what goes on.
Wild.
And obviously, on the day-to-day and getting to communicate and ask her about her day and stuff like that. And it is difficult to run a business. But, it's a silver linings, like you said, through those hardships and what you learned from the past. And it's how we carry that forward, and those experiences really makes us to be better human beings and to learn from the past to move forward in the future. So thank you very much.
I think another thing too is being able to have the skill to look back and reflect on what you went through and how far you've come. Yeah. My partner also runs a business, more bricks and mortar. He's a mechanic, so he runs a shop, and he's just gone through something as well. I obviously won't get into that because it's very specific, but being able to pause and look back and reflect on what you went through and how you have evolved and grown over that challenge that you went through. Because when you're in the thick of it, I often say this to my writers, because when they're writing, they're so deep into the content. It's like if you were trying to look at a painting and appreciate a painting and your nose is right up to it, you can't see it until you gain some distance, and then you have perspective, and then you can appreciate it. So taking that moment to pause, because there was a time where we were in the thick of this, what he was going through, and we weren't pausing to go, hey, 2 years ago, this is where we were, and now this is where we are. And even though there's still a few more mountains to climb, we have come a long way. So we need to sit with that and appreciate that, because if you don't, it's just all going to feel like it's always hard. There's nothing that, we've accomplished or achieved. And there's this, what's this next problem that we have, So being able to sort of cultivate that skill of pausing, reflecting, looking back and going, I did get over that. That was hard. It's not difficult now. I made it through, but at the time it was hard. And that shows a lot of resilience and a lot of strength. So making sure to pause and look back on the thing that you went through and accomplished, in the challenge or the struggle, and appreciating that you built the resiliency in order to be able to get through it.
The power of being able to do that, for those who are listening, I strongly urge to do that exercise. I myself just did that this morning. Took a look at my laptop. I'm coming back, catching up. I had 95 new emails on top of the emails I left because I didn't clean my inbox before going, getting excited to go away. And so just the process of going through all of those and these extra things, and you're writing down your list of things to do, and then it becomes overwhelming. And having a conversation just with Jeff, and we did that exercise and say, like, hey, look how far we've come just in the last few months alone. It really helped the mental aptitude to move forward with the day and stuff like that. So, I mean, very well said, and encourage anybody who's listening to do that exercise. It does wonders for the mental state.
Yeah, we have to pause and look back, or else, you're just gonna keep seeing challenges and keep seeing mountains and not realize that you've actually climbed a huge percentage of this mountain. And even though you may not be at the top yet, there's a lot of mountain behind you that you've overcome. So it's a good exercise.
What's one thing that you wish our listeners knew about your business?
I guess, I operate and function as someone to help you to self-publish. So particularly if you're a woman in business, but I do have male clients, just depends on, what direction you're taking with your book. Just know that if you want to write a book, it is completely within reach. It is completely within your grasp. It's very empowering to decide you're going to do something and then do it. It's kind of like the ultimate confidence booster. I want to write a book, and then you actually go about doing it, and then you're launching it. Now it's publicly out in the world. But also the caveat to that would be not everybody should write a book. So as much as it is a great medium and there are people very well suited to writing a book, you have to know if this is for you or not, and also self-identify if maybe writing is not your thing. And just because it's a cool idea, is it going to be the thing that is going to bolster your business and help get your voice out there? Or are there other mediums for you? Some people are better at video. You could put all of your efforts then into a YouTube channel or growing a podcast or doing something that fits your skills and your talents. So as much as I would say I can help anyone to self-publish a book, not everyone is well suited to that medium. So make sure you know that that's for you. And if it is for you and you love writing and you think that would be a great method for you, then know that it is within your reach. It is totally doable. There are a lot of things to learn about the book publishing process, particularly for self-publishing, but it's doable. It's available to you. And if it's a good fit for you and you love writing, then I encourage you to take a step forward, whether it's with me or you're finding your own way through the self-publishing landscape. It's available to you. And if you're a good fit for writing, do it, because it opens way more doors of opportunity than you would ever think just by virtue of becoming an author. It's like the ultimate elevated business card for your business and your brand.
So for those who are now super curious, have been the whole time, they've been waiting for the question that we ask at the end of the show, what's the best way that they can reach you?
Yeah, so probably just my website is the best one-stop shop. It's just LeadHerPublishing.com. I'm on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube. The handle is always just at LeadHer Publishing. So they're all the same on any channel that I'm active on. Website has a great listing of services. There's a contact form there. If you're like, I have a book and I'm ready to go and I want to tell you about my book and I want to, potentially have a call and chat with you, I have a book proposal form right on my website that you can fill out. And that gives me all the details about your book, what your goals are, and gives me the information I need to then set up a call and have a chat. So website first, social platforms is just at LeadHer Publishing.
Phenomenal. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. I'm sure others did as well. Great person, phenomenal business, and looking forward to potentially doing this down the line.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me and for the opportunity. I had a great time.
No worries. Anytime.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.